Maybe she was on silent.
Yes, hello, and welcome to Further Together.
Enriching relationships, creating a better future.
And your friends here, Kudzi and Priscilla, we are so happy to be back again.
Yes, guys, tonight's going to be a good night. Last week, we decided to take off coming on the platform, but we are back this week and it's going to be bigger and better.
Yes, if you are joining us for the first time, we are Further Together, and we are here every Thursday officially with a topic or a guest. And if you are a regular here, I want to say thank you so much for coming back, trusting the information that we do have here, and would encourage you also to share with a friend, so that they benefit.
Tonight's going to be a good night. We are joined by an amazing couple, and we are not going to go much into details, but we're going to introduce you to this amazing couple that are doing great in the body of Christ, that are working with other couples like us, coming to enrich our relationship. And we thought it is just a good thing to have them on the platform so they can share with us and enrich our relationship, as well as enrich your relationship as well.
So if you're joining tonight, one thing that we know you're going to take home is the theme of tonight is marital expectations. So what expectations do you have for your marriage? What have you been having, and how is it going? So we have invited Daniel and Winnie to come and share with us how they've been dealing with their own expectations. They've been married for a little longer. So without further ado, let's invite Pastor Daniel and Pastor Winnie. Welcome.
Thank you so much. What an awesome time. And thank you so much for inviting us to be on this platform and just to share the little knowledge that we have, the little journey that we have walked as far as relationships are concerned. And we pray that we'll be able to reach out to one or two people today with good news.
Yes.
Amen. Pastor Winnie, lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for having us here. We hope to be a blessing tonight to all the couples that are going to watch this.
Yes, they say marriage is hard, and it can be very hard if you are ignorant or if you are stupid. And if you see anyone who is in marriage or been married, they will tell you that we have a story. When we got married, these were our expectations. But however, it's not as straightforward as we do. So every couple have their story to share. Do you have anything to share with us about your expectations, where you were and where you are now, before we get into the topic?
Yeah, I think we've got a few experiences, real life experiences from our end that we are happy to embed in our conversation today. I must admit, the journey demanded a lot of work. Yes, because sometimes, when people hear pastors and ministers in the gospel, there's an assumption that, life is just sailing and everything's just fine, no struggles, because we're people of prayer, we're people of faith. But I must admit, relationships are relationships, regardless of who we are in the community. There are a number of things that people need to work on, and we've got a few experiences that we're happy to share as we dive into the conversation.
Yes, relationships are relationships, and they can be difficult sometimes. And to start with, you look quite young, and we had heard some guys who say, when we are listening about relationships, we don't want anybody who is 0 to 3 here. You've been married for 3 months, you've been married, and you're coming to tell us that this is how marriage works. Yeah. How long have you been married for, please, if you don't mind?
You know what? So that I don't miss it. Men are known for not being very good with kids.
I thought it was the only one.
Let me let Wendy just share on that one.
Yeah, no. It's been a bit of a journey. It's funny, people say that time flies, isn't it, when you're having fun?
Yeah.
It doesn't even feel like we've been married that long, but we have. I mean, for our generation, I think we have. So we got married in 2006. So we celebrated our 15th anniversary this year. So we've been married for 15 years by God's grace.
Wow. You've been in the business for longer than us. Yes, it is
Really?
so good that you will inspire and impact us tonight. Before we just delve into the subject on marital expectations, this is one thing that sometimes when people are getting in, they have huge expectations, some healthy expectations, some unhealthy. And by the time those things are not met, we start seeing a lot of issues and frustrations.
That's
What
true.
what would you say are marital expectations, or the healthy kind of marital expectations?
Yeah, I think if we had started from that note, it would be good for us to define what expectations are.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's a simple dictionary defines an expectation as a strong belief that something will happen or will be the case.
Mm.
Yeah, that's an expectation. One is a strong belief. So it's something that is in our minds. When we talk about expectations, I've got not just a belief, but I have a strong belief. To some people, it's a strong conviction that this person is going to treat me this way. This person is going to do A, B, C, D to me because we are in a relationship. So that's an expectation. Now, obviously, expectations has got different branches to it, if I may put it that way. There are expectations that are communicated. There are expectations that are not communicated.
Yep.
They are good expectations. There are also bad expectations. There are expectations that are real, they are realistic, and some which are not. But at the end of the day, we are dealing with a strong belief that someone or something is going to happen, or that is going to be the case.
And expectations or rules, they are those which are very difficult because they are not written down.
Unspoken.
Most of them, you only hear that. We had a young couple, they were married, and immediately after they got married, the guy called us and say, my wife is not she's acting as if she's not married. I said, why? His expectations, which were not even communicated, were not being met. So now to him, he thought that a married woman should do this. Whilst on the wife's side, she was saying, if you think this is what I want to do, these are expectations, you should tell me. And now there is a clash that somebody needs to be told, and the other one is saying you have to know that these are the things. Are there any expectations that are quite universal, where somebody get married and things have to just boom, a switch, this switches on, and everybody have to do things that way because you're married?
I think when it comes to, probably you can come in and help me as well. When it comes to building probably what we can call a healthy and lasting relationships, I think it's safer to assume that there is no expectation that is more on the natural side. Yeah, and assume that, you know what, every expectation that I have to communicate it. Yeah, I always like to put it this way, that it's unhealthy in our relationships, to play the prophet and prophetess game, where you expect your spouse to just pick it up, that this is how I want things to be done. Yeah. So for us, I think we would say a safer place when it comes to building healthy and lasting relationships is never to assume that the other person is going to pick it automatically, the things that you want them to do or how you want them to treat you. I don't know if you want to add something there.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I think when we think about it, we're talking about marriage, isn't it, here, or even any other relationship. It takes two people that are different. We're coming from different backgrounds. We are shaped differently. We're brought up differently. And we are wired differently, right? So what I bring into a marriage and see as is the norm might not be the norm for my other half, right? So if we come in and say, this is how things should be done based on what we know, and based on where we're coming from, and assume that that's how it should be in a marriage, there is always a danger that, you're not on the same ground. So which is why we are talking about, there's need for expectations to never be assumed, but they have to be communicated and make sure that everyone is on the same level and same understanding.
Doesn't matter how small, doesn't matter how big they are.
Yeah.
You just need to be communicated. Yeah.
Communicated. Thank you so much for that. Can you kindly take us through the lecture that you give to many people, especially on this subject, on marital expectations? We're going to give you this platform to just share with us some of the notes.
No, thank you so much, Chris and Priscilla, for this opportunity, and to all our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. If you are finding this a blessing, please just hit the share button there. Let's share with other couples. Just call them. Let's hang out together tonight and just have this conversation. And maybe before we get into there, thank you so much, good friends, for the good and splendid work that you are doing.
Yeah.
Thank God.
We really commend you for the great work that you are doing from that end, especially taking advantage of technology. There is a lot that is happening as far as relationships are concerned. Not even just mentioning the effects of the pandemic, where we had to spend almost 24 hours together, which is something a lot of couples never did before.
Yeah.
And, for other people, they grew stronger. For other relationships, that was it. It was actually a route to break down, if I may put it that way. So we really are proud and commend the great work that you are doing in building, relationships and contributing to better communities, if I may put it that way. So please keep up the good work that you guys are doing. We are following. We are learning. Everyone is a student when it comes to relationships. Everyone is a student. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll just jump straight into just a few things that we've put down today within the scope of marital expectations. And I think it would be good maybe to just start off with one of our personal experiences. I remember some years back, after we got married, we decided to go for a holiday. And, there's this excitement that we are going for holiday preparations, and you pack your bags, you take all the things that you need to use for a holiday. And then we set off for the holiday. We arrived at the place, at the hotel, and there's excitement that we're going to have a good and a great time there. And then come the first morning, when we arrived, we slept, and then the first morning of our holiday out there, myself, I consider myself an outdoor person. I like to wake up early and do things, make the most of the times, if I may put it that way. Yeah. And my beautiful girl here, she likes her sleep.
I too. I love it.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I think it's a woman thing, right?
Yeah.
Most likely.
So we woke up in the morning. Me, in my mind, I'm thinking we have come for holiday. We have paid money, so we have to put that money into use. So we've got to wake up in the morning, do site viewing, and make the most of the day instead of us just be in the hotel and sleeping. So I got frustrated, I must admit. And you know what? How can we come for holiday and then someone is sleeping until 11 o'clock? Someone is sleeping until 12 o'clock. Yeah. And I must admit, it ruined our entire holiday. Yeah, I got frustrated. Now, frustration is a feeling of being upset. It's, if I may use maybe a stronger word, it's being annoyed as a result of not being able to get something. Yeah, so the one that I said till death do us apart is now the one who is bringing annoyance. If I may put it that way. Yeah. You're upset, but I was upset because I had an expectation. Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we never had an opportunity to communicate our expectations, as far as holidays. What is a holiday? How does a holiday look like to you?
Yeah.
So I had this picture of a holiday in me that, when we go, just like every man, we want to reason everything and make the most of the time and the dollar.
Adventure.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, if we're going to spend half the day in bed, we might as well have stayed at home for half the time of the holiday and be sleeping.
Yeah.
So because of that uncommunicated expectation, it resulted in frustration, that feeling of being upset, of being annoyed because I wanted something, but I felt like I didn't get it. Now, in our journey of maybe helping other couples when we do counseling at church, even in the community, we have discovered that healthy relationships, or we do healthy relationships in the realm of reality, not in the realm of expectations. It has to be in the realm of reality. Now, it's this mismatch of expectations and reality that oftentimes creates unhealthy conflicts. And I'm very intentional to use the word unhealthy conflicts because I want to believe that they are healthy conflicts. Conflicts that build us if we handle them very well, because we are two different people who are trying to live one life. So it's a mismatch of expectations and realities that often creates this tension in our relationships. So the more people go through unmet expectations, the more they become frustrated. And the more they become frustrated, the more tensions arise in our relationships. If this issue is not addressed, the more tensions tend to rise. And in no time, you discover that relationships begins to undergo a silent, a secret, and a slow death. In no time, that relationship begins to undergo a silent, a secret, and a slow death. And most of the times, by the time we realize that we are in danger, the problem would have gone too deep sometimes to change the course. And on that note, we have learned in the relationships that not all things can be fixed in terms of pressing the reset button and put things back to factory settings. But a lot of things in our relationships can be avoided. We can avoid them by dealing with our expectations, by investing mainly in the area of communication. Right. And now, the more frustration is building up in our relationship, you find that common sense sometimes it stops being common. When people are frustrated in relationships, something that is just so common, it stops being. She's looking at me and she knows. Common sense sometimes stops being
common.
And when you look at it a little bit further, we begin to abandon even our responsibilities in our relationships. That's what tends to happen. Why? Because there is an unmet expectation. And as a result of that, frustration is building up. If there is no intentional communication to address those things, one begins to get frustrated. Common sense becomes uncommon. And then the responsibilities, they easily get abandoned. Like I said earlier on, when a marriage or relationship is in this state, it begins to experience that silent, that secret, and that slow death. And by the time we realize that we are dying here, we are suffocating in our relationship, sometimes the problem would have gone really, really, really too deep. But when we come back to the issue of unmet expectations, we believe that there are three levels. I think we've highlighted some of them. There are three levels to unmet expectations. The first one is uncommunicated expectations. That is the first level. I think whenever we are getting into our relationships, we all start from this level. Of uncommunicated expectations. And then from there, we have unrealistic expectations. They can be communicated, or sometimes they are uncommunicated, but they're just so unrealistic. And I'll give a typical example in our relationships, especially with young couples. there's a lot of unrealistic expectations as far as sex is concerned. It's divorced from reality. Yeah, it's far away from reality. Yeah, it's an unrealistic expectation. And then the third level, it is unagreed upon expectations. Yeah, there is no mutual agreement as far as those expectations are concerned. And in some cases, because of how we are brought up, right, there can be an element of this iron fist type of leadership, especially from us, the men.
Yes.
Where one will stand up and say, you know what, I told you what I want.
Yeah, we have to do this.
Yeah, I told you how we're supposed to do things in this house. So at the end of the day, you have communicated your expectation, but it's not agreed upon. There is no mutual agreement as far as that expectation is concerned. So at the end of the day, it's going to result in frustration, because my spouse is going to be frustrated because she's going to feel like she's being told things. She doesn't have a voice in this relationship. And it is always to keep reminding ourselves that marriage is a divine partnership. Marriage is a divine partnership where I'm not even bringing 50% and she's bringing 50%. It's a divine partnership where I'm bringing 100% and she's bringing 100%. Yeah, because it's a divine relationship. So we must mutually agree on a number of things in our relationship. Yeah, I'm a pastor, so I do talk. Let me allow
you are allowed to
come in and maybe just share a little bit more on some of the factors that shape our expectations.
Yes, sir.
Yes. But maybe before I go there, I just wanted to add on, where Pastor Dan here was sharing on uncommunicated expectations or unrealistic expectations, different levels of expectations. And I was just thinking about, some of the reasons why some expectations are not communicated. What I've discovered in our journey, actually, of talking to other people and even, on marriage, is sometimes you don't even know that you have those expectations, right? So we were talking about how sometimes it's how you are brought up and you come into a marriage. So you have seen things happening as you were growing up. You have seen a certain template of a marriage. And so you bring that into a marriage and you think that's how things are done. You've observed your mom doing certain things as a married woman, or you've observed your dad doing certain things in their marriage. And so you just bring that into your marriage and you think, my husband should be doing that because that's what my dad used to do, right? But you don't even take time to even realize that you have that expectation, but it's just there. It's there in you. So that's that's another reason why things are not communicated, because you don't even realize that you hold those expectations. And obviously they might not be realistic because your dad is not the same as your husband, because they're totally different people, right? And so they become unrealistic.
Can I give you a good example of how we're brought up?
Sorry, could you say this again?
Sorry. We grew up in an environment where girls had to wake up very early in the morning to sweep soil.
Not even dirty.
Sometimes not even dirty, but it's just a culture thing. I don't know about you, Kuds and Priscilla. I remember our sisters, they had to wake up around 5 o'clock. And take the African broom.
Yes.
The yard and everything else. So one could actually build up an expectation there that, my wife is supposed to wake up early in the morning and do the house chores.
And me, I'm not waking up. No.
And when that doesn't happen because of the template that I have, it's easy for one to easily get frustrated. Yet we never had an opportunity even to investigate from our parents, why were we doing these things?
Yes.
Because we could be trying to run on a template which, upon investigation, maybe some of our mothers would say, you know what, if I had an opportunity to change this template, I would have changed it.
I would have changed it.
This is so powerful.
Just copying and pasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
Pastor,
would say to people that, sorry, yeah.
How do we deal with this? You know, like coming from where I come from, my father would sit on the dining table, and my mom would bring the food, would bring warm water for him to wash his hands. He eat, and he leaves his place right there, and warm water comes, he washes his hands, and he leaves everything there. And you know, he's the king. Now coming here, Priscilla tells me that food is in the kitchen. I have to take it, put it in the microwave, warm it, and bring it. And when I eat, you know, she calls me to say, "Can you please check your plates and put them in the sink?" As if that is enough. Then she'll say, "Hey, you forgot to do the dishes."
Yeah.
How do we deal with these issues? I mean, we have a blueprint from Africa. We are living in Europe here, or life has changed. How can we make life easier for ourselves?
Listen, you're even lucky if you're told to get food from the microwave, because you can actually be told to defrost meat from the freezer and put it on the cooker and cook it. So I think so you should thank God if you're getting it from the microwave cooked.
To the glory of God.
Right, but what we're talking about, this is what we're talking about, is being realistic. It's using common sense. It's knowing where you are. There is never like there's never like a marriage that is universal. Like people do things the same way in every marriage. It will not work. So I think what we always communicate with people that we work with, or even between the two of us, is you have to know where you are. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you are called to do in life, right? We are pastors. We have got different responsibilities. I work full time. He probably work different hours. You have to assess where you are as a couple. How does your world work? How do things work for you? You can't be taking things that you were doing in Africa, you know, like you were explaining that your, you know, fathers used to come from work, right? They come home at midnight. They expect your mom to come out of bed and heat up the food for them and serve them. And then when they finish, do you know, that will not work in the United Kingdom. So environment works, culture works, you know what works for you. Assess where you are. Communicate. This is what I was talking about. Like, you know, the template that you have, it will not work for everyone or for your particular marriage. Know where you are and communicate what works for us. The two of you have to commune and talk about it. This is what I believe. This is what I would love you to do for me as my wife. But would that work for you? Would that work for you? Obviously, you work full time or you work nights. Will you work for you if I ask you to do A, B, C, D? Then you come to an agreement and put to work what works for the two of you. Don't copy and paste. It will not work.
Thank you so much. This is so true. And I love what you've rightly mentioned, that we shouldn't copy. Let's create our own blueprint of what we want for our marriage, what works for us. You know, we are in the diaspora and things may not go exactly the same way that it happened for our fathers. So I really love how you shared that. So there may be some people who are struggling. They say they have communicated. They are in communication regarding these expectations, and they're just not finding that balance of agreeing upon certain expectations. How do you help such people?
Yeah. So when it comes to communication, I think for me, it's one area that I'm very passionate about, because it is possible for people to sit down and communicate their expectations, but communicate them the wrong way. And then be frustrated that we have sat down to talk, but our conversation didn't yield any fruits. Yeah. So this is how I would put it, that when it comes to healthy communications in our marriages, how we communicate is almost more important than what we communicate. Yeah, because you it's possible to say something that is very true, but if I communicate it in the wrong way, at the wrong time, it's not going to yield the intended results.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in our relationships, how we communicate things. Remember, I even mentioned earlier on the issue of, I'm commenting from a male side of things, because we were raised in a culture where man has to provide leadership.
Yeah.
Man has to be like on the front. And in some circles, we're even taught that you are the one who carry the final say.
Yeah.
Yeah, in relationships, that kind of a thing. But if we fail to realize that when it comes to the two of us, we have to make a lot of adjustment and see what works between the two of us. What are our individuals' areas of strength, so that we can shape our marriage around our areas of strength, instead of me just trying to say, you know what, I'm a man, so I'm going to soldier on in this area, even though I know that my other half is a lot much better than me.
I do DIY better.
Are you serious?
That's a fact, I must admit.
Wow.
That's very true, and she enjoys it.
I love it.
Yeah. I enjoy cooking. I'm not the best cook, but I enjoy spending a lot of time in the kitchen. And I must admit, because of the nature of our work, I'm in the kitchen more than my wife. And there's absolutely no problem.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a pastor. I've got the privilege at the moment of overseeing one of the 4 regions of our big church here in the United Kingdom, overseeing about 5-6 assemblies with fully fledged pastors.
Yeah.
But when it comes to our marriage, there is absolutely nothing wrong for me to go in the kitchen and do the dishes and cook.
So you take off the pastoral collar.
You know that when I'm with Winnie, I'm Daniel.
Yes. I must be able to distinguish, or maybe to, I must be able to switch roles, if I may put it that way.
Yes.
And to know that at this particular time, the role that is on the front, the leading role, is not the pastoral role. It's the husband. It's the father role that is on the front at this particular time. So one must be able to juggle through different roles that we carry in life. For the sake of us building healthy relationships. Because if I want to be the pastor, the overseer at home, I can guarantee you it will not work.
And you know what, Pastor? It will be very difficult for you to have a sexual intercourse with your wife, because
you'll be calling you man of
like,
God.
Yes, I'm being abused here. The man of God is sleeping with me. So it's quite important. Now, the most challenging bit is, how do we communicate? How do we sit down and air those views? Suppose we want to have
we want to agree
upon certain expectations.
Yeah.
How do we do that in a very amicable way?
Sure.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's try to be maybe more on the practical side on this one. So what we normally say is, building a right mindset as far as relationships are concerned is very, very important. That what is it that we want at the end of the day? Or let me put in another words, it's about having a dream of a healthy relationship, where you are thinking in your mind, how does it look like? What kind of a marriage do I want to have? Right. I'm processing this as an individual. And then now, when it comes to the practical side now of sitting down and communicating, now it is very, very important to create an environment where people can talk about anything in your relationship. Yeah. It's about creating, we like to call it a good communication culture. In our relationship, where we can talk anything. Why are we saying so? Because there is no marriage without struggles or problems. Yeah. And normally what we call problems in our relationships, they are not the real problem. What is the real problem is our inability to communicate them in a healthy environment. That is the problem. When we have challenges, when we've got differences, but we can't communicate them in a healthy way, that is a problem, not the problem that we think is the problem. Yeah. So being intentional in creating space and time to communicate then it becomes very, very important. So for us, we normally say when it comes to communication, always define the objectives from the word go. Define the objective from the word go. You know, when we're driving and you want to go somewhere and you've got your navigator, you have to punch in the postcode first. Before you get on the road. You are defining the intended outcome. This is where we want to go. And I normally say communicate the objective before you sit down to have a conversation. So in our case, this is what I would say. I would say, you know what, Winnie, there's something that I want us to talk about. Right. What is the best time for us maybe to sit down and have a conversation? But I don't want to leave you in suspense. I want us to talk about something that is going to build our relationship.
Yes.
I want us to sit down and talk about something that maybe I feel if we don't talk about it, it's going to damage our relationship. Right?
Yes.
I'm setting the pace for the conversation. And I'm also giving it time to prepare for the conversation. It's not like I'm just coming to you and say to you, you know what, we need to sit down and talk now.
We need to have a meeting.
You get me scared.
Which we see in a lot of relationships, in a lot of couples. You know, you're not giving time for your other half to prepare mentally for the conversation. You know, you're not telling them the agenda of the so-called meeting. But if I say to you, you know what, I want us to have a conversation, not even today, but please, can you create space for us to have a conversation tomorrow, maybe in the evening when kids go to bed? And I want us to talk on this subject. And the reason why I want us to talk about this subject is so that we can build a healthy relationship. I'm setting a good ground for us to have a healthy communication. Even if I'm to bring things that are sensitive, she will not feel that I'm attacking her. Because I have set the pace very well. So defining the objective is very, very important. And then from a practical point of view, create time, block space in your calendar that we are going to sit down and talk on this day at this time. We remove all sorts of distractions. I know we are living in an information and technological world where we can't put our phones down.
That's
the world that we're living in. But if we are going to build healthy relationships, then we need to create that space and time and remove all sorts of distractions. I always remind people at our church that, you know what, your phone has got a functioning off and on button. A lot of people, they have never used that button ever since they bought their phones.
You're preaching good.
Ever since the phone was bought, that button has never been used.
Unless it dies, you just
unless the battery dies, which I can almost guarantee you, there are very people who are very good with their gadgets. Their phones up to now, it has never run out of battery.
Oh my God.
So it is important as couples, you know, that if we are going to build intentional or healthy relationships that last long, learn to switch off your phone. It shows your other half that you're taking this thing seriously. And then we sit down, we have this conversation, we start to talk about it, and we always say, you know what, it's important to have ground rules when it comes to communication. And one of the most important ground rules to communication is to agree that we are going to respect each other.
Amen.
We are going to respect each other regardless of sex, regardless of gender. We are going to respect each other. I'm a pastor, so a lot of our beliefs and values, they are shaped by the word of God. Right. So when I look at Winnie, I'm looking at someone who was created in the image of God. For me, that is enough to give you respect.
Regardless of your position at church, when you are sitting down here as husband and wife, it's not, I'm your papa here, I'm the man of God.
Yes, regardless of who is bringing more money on the table in our house. We still have got to communicate in a respectful manner.
Man of God,
there are certain words that should never be found in our conversations if we respect one another. If I see you as an image of God, created in the image of God, wonderfully and fearfully made, there are certain words that should never come out of my mouth towards her. Why? Because you know, once words come out of the mouth, even if you say sorry, you can't delete them.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, and remember, as a couple, there are moments where we are going to go back to our recycle bin.
Yes, yes.
And take some of the things that we thought we discarded a long time ago, and remind each other that, do you remember you said ABCD?
Yeah.
They are words.
Yeah.
That's why earlier on I said there are many things in our relationships that are avoidable.
Yeah.
If we can build our relationships the right way. So for us, when it comes to communication, respect is everything. Respect is not one way. Respect is both ways.
Yeah.
The tone of voice as well.
The tone of voice is part of respect.
Yeah.
Body
They tell us
language is part of respect.
When you talk about tone of voice, Pastor, you know where we come from as a father. And as a preacher, when you're speaking, there have to be emphasis. How do we deal with that?
Woo, let's hear from Winnie.
Yeah, I feel like preaching now.
I mean, to be honest, if you have to be intentional and know what you want to achieve out of every conversation. So if you know that shouting didn't work last time, if you know that, you know, maintaining this whole I'm the father of the house position did not work last time, why keep doing the same thing? Because if you repeat the same thing, you get the same results, right? So I think it's just being intentional. It goes back to how you have to remember that you're in that relationship because you love each other, right? And love is kind, love is patient, right? You do things in a love environment. So love comes first. And at the same time, respect, like what Pastor Dan comes in as well. And just being intentional that, you know, we want to get something good out of this communication. So you have to adjust. Adjustment is needed. There's nothing that we cannot change, to be honest, as far as how we behave. It doesn't matter how we were brought up. If you want to change, there is grace. There is grace for us to change. There is grace for us to adopt to the new ways of doing things in a way that yields the results that we want to see. Yeah.
And it's also unhealthy to have a heart of stone in our relationships, where you feel like your position is your position, you can't be moved. It's here who's got to adjust. It's here who's got to make some shifts and some moves. We have to have a heart of flesh. We need to have a heart of flesh where, you know, some things, be willing to compromise. You're not going to lose anything at the end of the day. So there's a need for us to be willing to adjust and to make all the necessary changes. Sorry about that. To make all the necessary changes in our relationships and be the one who has to make the first move to adjust. That's what we try to do in our relationship. Instead of me waiting for her to change, I want to be the one making the first move to make adjustments, to make the first move to compromise, to show that, you know what, I respect our relationship and I would do anything to make it work. Because many times, you know, we hold these strong positions that we have, and then we maintain a position, we win a position, but we lose a good relationship. We lose each other along the way. It's not going to benefit anything. So we must be willing to make adjustments where they are needed. And maybe last one that I can throw in there, be patient with one another. One of the best men in the area of leadership that I like so much, I've learned a lot from him, is a pastor called John C. Maxwell. So John C. Maxwell, when he's teaching leadership, he says leaders don't grow in a day, but they grow day by day. And I think it's a principle that is transferable even when it comes to our relationships. In our relationships, we don't change in a day because we had a conversation today about expectations. And then suddenly tomorrow I wake up a changed person.
Can you preach that one again,
Pastor?
please? Can
Please
you
don't
tell
go
my
there.
husband
Please don't go
again?
there.
Preach that one.
Pastor, you had preached nicely. Where you are touching me now.
Preach that one again.
All right. So in our relationships, it's very important for us to be patient with each other.
Yeah.
Especially where change is needed. Because you remember, I've been thinking and doing things in a certain way ever since I was born.
Yeah.
So expecting me to just change suddenly like a traffic light, it doesn't happen. That 1 minute is green and the next minute is red. It doesn't happen that way in a relationship.
Yeah.
So we need to be patient with each other. Change doesn't happen in a day. It happens day by day.
Amen.
Wow.
So we need to be patient with each other. Sorry.
I think you've nailed it. And I've received my word for the day, and I've
received my deliverance for the night as well. I come from a military kind of background whereby when we say and we agree this, tomorrow I'm expecting you to know, because we spoke about this last night, and look at what's this nonsense you're doing and they're expecting you to take.
And you know what, Pastor? This one has been an issue, especially with timekeeping, yes?
Hallelujah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. Be patient.
I'm being born again.
You know, we are learning this.
Hallelujah.
It doesn't mean Sunday I'm just going to be like a switch.
Yeah.
But I like what you said about being intentional and both of us wanting to change. And I think this is very powerful. And I hope you guys are taking notes. Pastor Danny and Pastor Winnie have just been sharing some of the ground rules that they use when they are communicating in their house. And respect was part of it. Patience was part of it. You know, there's just so much nuggets that have been shared on here tonight.
And my own elder Gabriel and his wife, they're here.
Look at he says, don't take advantage.
He's a very militant man. He wants things to be done straight away. And I think it's a night of deliverance to his family as well. God is touching you wherever you are.
Amen.
Yeah, to be delivered tonight.
Be set free in Jesus' name.
Pastor, before we go, I know we have taken you a little bit of a stretch, but before we leave, do you have homework for us? We are going now. You have spoken to us. Anything for us to go and implement? We're getting towards Christmas now. And we know that during this season where we spend much time together, there is more of, head butting each other because we're in the same locality.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think something more on the practical side that we want to suggest to the couples that are on this platform. Now, this one applies to all of us, whether you have a healthy relationship or a relationship that is work in progress. It applies to every one of us. So here's what we're suggesting. Just give it a try and see how it works. Establish what we call a table talk.
Yes.
Establish what we're calling a table talk. A table talk is just a fancy way of describing, creating space and time to have a meaningful conversation. That's a table talk where you communicate intentionally, you communicate on purpose, right? Not the kind of communication a lot of couples we do. I think we have done that one for a very long period of time. It didn't work. Where we communicate because there's a problem. Yeah, and the emotions are there in the third heaven. It doesn't work. A typical example could be that you're mentioning, or Priscilla, that you're mentioning, to do with time. Right. I think it's a struggle with almost every church guy who's married to a beautiful sister, if I may put it that way. Especially on a Sunday morning, it's a real struggle. Yeah. You agree the previous night we're going to leave at this time, and then come the day, you sit in the car is idling, and you're still waiting. Now, if you try to address the issue of time in the car on your way to church, it's not a good time to do that. It's one of the worst times. What you might do is you might as well play your favorite CD music, put the volume up a little bit, and drive to church.
Oh my
Instead
God,
of-
this is so good.
Instead of trying to address it in the moment, it's not a good time. What you want to say is very good, but it's the timing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one is going to hear anything there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's important that when it comes to a table talk, you know, create time far away from a problem or an issue. It's even much better when there's nothing going on. Yeah, everyone is happy. You know what? We're enjoying our marriage. We have a little bit of a revival of our honeymoon. In that time, then bring in the table talk. You know what? Let's sit down and let's talk. Let's just have a meaningful conversation. I must admit, it's one thing that I struggled with for a very long time. My wife enjoys meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had to do a lot of work around that. So here's the homework: establish a table talk. From a practical point of view, we're suggesting that sit down, the two of you, decide one day in a week, just one day in a week, at least one day. Thank you for that word. Yeah, at least one day in a week where you will sit down and have a meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
Gadgets away, the TV is off, computers are switched off, WhatsApp is off. You're sitting down and you're just looking at each other. And we say, you know what? Let's talk. How are you doing? What's going on in your life? What areas do we need to work in our relationship? Right. What are your like today we're talking about expectations. So that could be a very good starting point. Let's talk about expectations. What are your expectations as far as finances are concerned?
Yeah.
What are your expectations as far as sex is concerned? We are talking. Yeah. Get to hear your other half, their thoughts or their positions. So for us, I think this would be a very good starting point. Establish a table talk. Decide at least one day of the week and time, not just a day. Agree on day and time where you're going to sit down and have a meaningful conversation. Honor that time. Yeah. No one is going to come and police you. Pastor Dan, Minister Winnie, or Priscilla, they are not going to come and police you and say, are you doing it? If you love to invest in a relationship, then take it seriously. Yeah. Time-wise, it's entirely up to you. If you want to have 5 minutes as a start, you know what? For me as a pastor, I would say you are better off than somebody who is not even doing it.
That's true.
Then 5 minutes, you build it into 10 minutes, 10 minutes into 30 minutes, 30 minutes into 1 hour, 1 hour into an all night. You enjoy it.
From glory to glory.
Yes. You know what? I would have loved to have you for
all night.
All night. You know, I'm a married man. I don't do one night stand. So when I invite you here and people are sending these messages that they want to have you for a cup of tea, they want to have side talks with you when I'm the one who have invited you, then I feel obliged to say, I'm gonna call you again to come and finish what you have started. Because I'm seeing my own elder saying, you are prophesying, you are preaching about him.
You're right in his house.
You are in his house right now. You have touched every detail, and we feel honored to have you tonight.
Yes, we are so honored to have you, Pastor Danny and Pastor Winnie, tonight. And we will definitely ask that you will allow us to invite you on another time so you can finish what you've started. But for tonight, I think deliverance has already taken place. We are going to be intentional about building our relationships, intentional about having those table talks and discussing, walking through those expectations, be it we've communicated about them with time.
Yeah. So how are we going to deal with time now in the new year?
And for this Sunday, no arguments about timekeeping on our way to church, isn't it?
What more shall we say apart from saying thank you so much for giving us your precious possession? You guys, you are there, wouldn't do this without you. It would be difficult for us. Yeah, first timers, we thank you so much for coming. We hope you'll join us again. For those who are regulars at this place, we thank you for trusting the content that we bring here. Pastor Dan and Minister Winnie, if people want to get in touch with you on your socials, please quickly, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm very quite active on social media, if I put it that way. So if you just type in Daniel Manyanga, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, you will definitely find me. And it's the same thing with my wife. I know she's on a bit of a sabbatical on social media for a bit of some spiritual maintenance, if I put it that way.
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, but I will be back in the new year. So if you look on Instagram and Facebook, my name is Winnifilda Manyanga. You should find me there. But I'll be active in the new year, just looking after myself a little bit.
Wonderful.
Yes, we are back again next week, 8 p.m. UK time. For me and my beautiful wife, we are going for the table talk. Till we meet again, we're signing out. God bless you.
Love you
Thank
guys.
you so much. Bless